It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.
Hey, Steph, how are you?
Good. How are you? Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, my monitoring window's blank, so I can't see what we actually look like live.
No,
but I'm guessing we look like this.
Yes, mine is too. I think it's fine. That's just
usually we get like a preview of what's going on here, but we can't see anything. So
no,
we're gonna have to trust that we're live. This is rAVe TV, our live weekly TV show, every Wednesday at noon. No matter where we are in the world, every Wednesday at noon. And rAVe TV comes in at ravepubs.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook Live.
Yes.
It's a live foursome, right?
And yes, and YouTube.
And and YouTube. So it's a fivesome. It's a fivesome now. So and
it's
YouTube
a weird
as well.
way to say that, but yeah.
So hey, Steph, did you see I thought I'd mention this as news. Did you see the news about, I know we're not going to talk about this very long because we're going to make it a later broadcast, but you saw that Nikon has decided to no longer make SLR cameras anymore. It's like the world is changing to the iPhone. The school of media and journalism media has decided that's the way we're going to start teaching photography now, is using mirrorless cameras. So what do you think about that? Everything's changing, huh?
I just don't know. I don't know how I feel. I was talking to you about this earlier. I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see, but I don't see a world without DSLRs. That don't sound right.
Yeah,
because
SLR cameras
because
first.
you were showing your
SLR
iPhone settings and going into cinema mode and creating that really narrow depth of field with that, but you can't. It still doesn't look the same as an SLR to me. But we'll just see.
I mean, Hollywood obviously is going to use these $40, $50, $60,000 cameras. But the rest of us, what's happened is, it's supply and demand, right? If no one's buying expensive cameras anymore, it's hard to sell expensive cameras. I mean, Nikon getting out of it is a pretty big deal because they're one of the leaders. But the truth of the matter is, Hollywood uses high-end cameras, which is a great segue into the Emmy Awards.
Yes,
that just came out.
I just have so many thoughts about this. So I'm glad that you brought this up.
Okay.
So I just think it's so interesting because a few years ago, all of the Emmy noms, they were all on big cable television networks. And now most of them are on streaming services, which is just amazing because I feel like streaming services didn't originally have that great of original content. They've definitely had to work their way up, right? But now everything's amazing. So
I want to shout out real quick.
Okay.
We have Chaz Nielsen, who's joining us from South Africa. Might be our longest distance viewer in the history of rAVe TV. Thanks, Chaz, for joining us. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe and you're staying healthy. I want to thank you and welcome you to the rAVe TV family. So, Steph, I know that you're very opinionated on TV. I agree with you. I mean, when Netflix first got popular and I started watching shows on Netflix, everything sucked to me.
Yeah, it did.
I didn't think anything was good.
Nothing
but the truth of the matter is, there was a time when actors thought doing television, back when I was a kid, actors doing commercials was a bad thing. You were on your way down.
They need some money,
commercial, right? It was sort of like this is Spinal Tap as an actor. You're on your way down. Nobody, and you're the only one that doesn't realize it. And then then doing TV was the same thing. Now it's the opposite. Now all the actors like Jason Bateman and Ozark. I can't think of a movie that's as good as that series. The writing, the plot, the quality is as good as any movie I've ever seen.
Well, I still think that there's this idea of Hollywood and movies being and movies that people go see in theaters as being the highest you can make it, right? When you are in a big box Marvel movie, people who are in Marvel movies, they're considered to have made it because those are all actors we know who are in there and they're getting a lot of money. But I still think that I think that TV is not as looked down upon as it used to be because also if you're on a show on Netflix that people love, you're going to get a lot of money because you think about how many people are watching that show. It's not you know, I mean, like, there are still going to be like big shows on CBS, ABC, all of them, but like, it's not going to be looked down upon because like Netflix and Hulu have great shows now. Like, Only Murders in the Building is an amazing TV show.
I've been wanting to see that because I love Steve Martin.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's like Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. They're all like the leads of the show, and it is basically like they're obsessed with murder podcasts. But then a murder happens in the building that they live in New York City, so they're like trying to make a podcast about it, and
they've done a good job. To have Selena Gomez means they're going to hit your generation.
Yes.
To have Martin Short and Steve Martin are going to hit my generation.
Yes.
So you got it covered.
In all of the interviews and press they've done about the show, it does sound like when she talks to them, it sounds like the way that I talk to you.
It is definitely like it is because I'll look at her and say a term like it's normal, and she'll look at me like I remember showing her the back of our giveaway T-shirt at Infocom. She goes, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "It's a VGA connector." And she's like, "What is a VGA connector?"
So, I knew what I know what a VGA connector is. I think I just needed a reminder because I haven't seen that since elementary school. That's not my fault.
So another show that's great that you mentioned as well earlier when we were talking about pre-show stuff was Better Call Saul, which is a spinoff, you know, a traditional spinoff of Breaking Bad. It's and honestly, I think it's better. I loved Breaking Bad, and I think the plot lines in Breaking Bad were amazing, and the sort of the plot and the character development. But the character development in Better Call Saul and the mixture of comedy and craziness and drama is phenomenal. Like it's better if you watch Breaking Bad and you're not watching didn't watch Better Call Saul. That's a big mistake. I've
never watched either.
Okay. Oh my God. I wish I could discover Breaking Bad again. Somebody said to me, "Gary, you need to watch the show Breaking Bad." And I thought, that dumb name for a show. So then I decided to watch it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching like some of the best TV I've ever watched in my life. And when I was done with it, I was upset that I was done with it because it was so good. Steph, if you start watching it, you're going to be like, this is incredible. Like it's you almost get frustrated and depressed when a series or a movie, like I remember watching Inception thinking, I wish the movie would never end, because it was one of those movies like I'm watching something I've never experienced before. There's lots of movies, you know, I guess about an analogy would be like I'm driving down the road and my daughter will be sitting in the back seat of the car and say, "Dad, have you heard this new song?" And then she'll play it. And I'm like, that's like the third version of the original version that came out when I was a kid. It's the same way. Like when you go to movies now and you go to like every movie that's big, by the way, is a remake of an old movie, by the way, or a continuation of an old movie.
Or like everyone's remixed that like Genius of Love song by the Tom Tom Club like 8 million times. Yeah.
Yeah. So to see something original like Breaking Bad, Ozark, nothing has been like those. Stranger Things, nothing has been.
Stranger Things. Oh my God. That is my Breaking Bad. Like that is like when that show ends, like I'm going to need to take a week vacation so that I can just like process my emotions about it being gone, because that show is so good. So good. I'm not even caught up yet. I'm not done with season 4. I've been like relishing it because because there's not going to be more for another 2 years. Like I have to make it last, you know?
And of course we have a connection to Stranger Things because the guys who write it are from Durham, North Carolina.
And there's always all these little Easter eggs. They like mention like
lots of Easter eggs
and like, you know, like street names that they'll talk about in Hawkins, Indiana, that are actual real streets in Durham, or like they talked about a fake river in Hawkins called the Eno River. That's a real river from where we are. Yeah. So
another, we'll leave this because we have no control over who gets the Emmy.
We can do a show just about this.
But if they don't give Ted Lasso Emmy for best comedy, I don't know what they're going to give it to, because that show is so funny.
They're going to give it to Only Murders in the Building, I hope.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Ted Lasso is
People like Ted Lasso more. Yeah. We'll see.
Anyway, let's move on to stuff in the industry. We have a special guest today too. We're gonna bring on Mark Coxon in a little while, but before we do, one thing we want you to do is we want you to register for the Digital Signage Experience. Now, the DSE show used to be called Digital Signage Expo, and we have a little graphic here we're popping up. DSE used to be called the Digital Signage Expo, is now called the Digital Signage Experience. And the reason for that is the new owners of the show are all about creating experiential applications and using digital signage for experiential applications. They're going to bring a lot more agency people to the show. They're going to bring a lot more attendees from different segments of the market, but also brands that'll be from different segments of the market. So, listen, we have a free code we're looking at right here on the screen. I think if you just go to you click on the I don't know if you're watching this online anywhere, you can click on the link, but if not, you can go to our website at ravepubs.com, or you can go to DSE or digitalsignageexperience.com or .org. I can't remember which one. Maybe it's both. DSEshow.org. That's another place to go. If you go there, you can use our code, which is rAVe GIFT, and you can register for free. Now, even if not sure you're going to go ahead and register. The show's going to be in Vegas. And, for those of you who have not been in Vegas in like 3 years, I actually liked going back to Vegas for the first time. Like, I go to Vegas so many times prior to the pandemic that I was like, I hate freaking Vegas. Now, when I went to Infocom, a month and a half ago, I actually felt good about going to Vegas. I was like, this is kind of cool to be back in Vegas, right? So a lot of you, only 19,000 people went to Infocom, which is still a good number, but 19,000 people went to Infocom, which means there's a couple 100,000 people that didn't go, of which 40,000 of those are in digital signage. Why not go ahead and register for the DSE show? By the way, we don't make any money off telling you to do this. So we're doing it because we believe in shows and we believe we need to get back. And if you are able to drive like Mark Coxon can drive to Vegas, you should definitely sign up to go. So Mark Coxon, we're going to bring him on. We're going to say, Mark, have you registered for DSE? Because you sat here and watched this. So
indeed.
Hey, by the way, speaking of virtual production, Steph, take it away.
Yes. Okay. So as you know, one of the publications under the rAVe agency we have a publication called Launch Code, which is based off of our virtual hybrid event platform Launch. Well, Launch Code is going to have a virtual event that's all about virtual production, and this is done with Absen. So if you didn't go to Infocom, please go watch our videos on our Infocom microsite, because virtual production was definitely like one of the themes of the show. It seemed like 5 or 6 companies had virtual production studios set up, which doesn't seem like a lot, but this is still a very new concept that has only really come out in the past year. So for 4 or 5 or 6 companies to really be spending money on that is huge. So definitely use the link. We'll drop it down if you're watching on LinkedIn or something, and go register for that. It is going to be on July 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So definitely keep a lookout for this. This is going to kind of tell you what we can look for more in the market of virtual production, because a lot of people are using it for more than just TV sets.
Live events is going to be transformed with virtual production, because now we can take a set and make it. We can take a set that's live and take and duplicate that exact set wherever we want to duplicate it, and put someone anywhere we want to put them. Yes. So I think for live events, it's going to be a game changer. Before we talk about the first new product that was released this week, we want to talk about, I want to shout out to Leandro David, who is watching us from Brazil. And Carrie, who's supposed to be, I don't know if she's out on vacation yet or getting ready to go on vacation, says, Steph, do not forget to mention Abbott Elementary.
Yes, that's another big one.
Things as well.
It's basically like The Office, but it's like a girl who teaches elementary school. And it's Quinta, I think her name's Quinta Brinson. She comes from BuzzFeed, so she's very, very funny. And it's nominated for a bunch of Emmys too. So I haven't watched it, but I've heard really good things.
I haven't either, but I know that Carrie would like it. I'm sure she probably appreciates it even more than most of us, because she used to be a teacher and now works here at rAVe. But so let's talk about the new products this week. One of them is
a simple product.
This is a retractable version of a product that C2G's already had, the Dongle adapter ring. This is one of those things that if you walk up to any podium on any university campus, one of these things exists. Now, whether or not it's the C2G version or someone's, this is a retractable version, which is nice, because one of the things, when I teach at the business school, they have these all over the place stuff. And there's so many dongles on it now that the thing takes up half the podium space. So to have one that's retractable that pulls it to the back of the podium or pulls it wherever, that'd be awesome because it frees up that space. And it's one of those keep it simple, stupid products, right? I mean,
yes, where you're like, this is so simple, but you're like,
people walk in with all different kinds of laptops.
But you're like, oh yeah, this is genius. So speaking of C2G, this is one of the brands under the Legrand umbrella, and Legrand, we're very grateful to them. They're one of our partners, and so we are going to show a quick little commercial spot from one of their other brands, Daylight. So check this out.
Oh, thank you for calling Daylight, where we're passionate about screens even at 3 a.m. How may we help you?
Hey, Karen. This is Rachel with Acme Integrated Solutions.
Oh, hi, Rachel.
Hi. Bad news. The Glacier Sanctuary has stopped construction indefinitely, so the screen installation is on hold.
Oh, no. Why are they stopping?
I guess Antarctica has a bright season. It's going to be light out 24 hours a day for months. I know your HD progressive screens work well with controlled light conditions, but there is no way they can handle the constant punishing sun of the South Pole. And since no modern professional environment can exist without high-quality projection screens,
show them we care.
Saving glaciers will have to wait.
Tell my children we tried.
Hi, guys.
I know I should be used to that now, but it is very scary.
Look, there's no need to shut down. We have Parallax ALR screens.
Yes! What, ALR?
Ambient light rejection. Technology that can handle oodles of ambient light situations. Even a situation called the sun.
Karen, I know daylight screens are the best, but this isn't just the sun. This is the sun all the time.
It's no problem.
Big problem. With sun all the time, reflecting off snow all the time, won't it be brighter all the time?
Well, it will be brighter, but... Our Parallax surfaces are designed to preserve high-contrast images in the brightest of environments, even the all-the-time ones.
But that's just brightness. What about glare? Once our glass dome is finished, it'll basically be a giant prism, spewing sun lasers from every direction. Glare will be everywhere. There'll be no escape!
There will be an escape because Parallax screens are not TVs. They reject and absorb light, so there's no glare.
And they make Parallax screens big enough for glaciers?
She's right. That's way too small.
Parallax screens come in seamless sizes up to 16 feet tall.
Perfect.
Oh, no.
Look, see for yourself.
It's beautiful.
It's Parallax.
All right, so we're excited to be joined with Daylight Man himself, Mark Cox, and a lot of people didn't know that you were the one inside that blue suit of yours that you'd run around the trade show floor. Mark, how are you doing?
I am doing awesome. You mentioned DSE, and so I just have to say I am going to DSE. I didn't need to register. I'm actually going to be a panelist.
Oh,
what are you gonna panelize?
So I'm on a panel called DVLED, What You Need to Know. So I'm going to be on a DVLED panel. So
excellent,
awesome.
Excellent. Well, we brought you on to talk about saving the office park, which is an article that you wrote that's on our website that is trending right now. Well, Steph prepared some questions here, so we'll bat them back and forth. I'll ask the first one. What inspired you to write this column?
You know, I've seen a lot of articles on back to work. And a lot of these articles are based on, kind of these arguments that, your company spent a lot of money on the building and we need people to be sitting in these seats that we're paying rent on. And then the latest argument I've seen is like, well, the restaurant downstairs may suffer if you don't go back to the office and you're not buying sandwiches every day. Right.
Such a weird reason.
Right. And it to me, it was very interesting because we're making arguments based on kind of like these sunk costs and these legacy systems, when really we should be designing the office to actually create an advantage for the worker. And then that advantage is why you go, and not to support kind of like this legacy ecosystem that existed before the pandemic. So.
Yeah. So like when we talk about there being like a disconnect between like what employers are trying to get employees to do and what employees should actually do, like, where do you think that is? I
think there are two things. I mean, I think number one, it's in a way, it's some insecurity of companies that to know like kind of their business downstream and what they actually need to do to be productive, right? And I worked for a company for a little while that said, since when did this become a democracy? If the CEO says you got to come back to work, you got to come back to work. And I had to raise my hand and say, that's great. You can take that approach, but be ready to lose people. Because if the reason is because I said so, then that's a bad reason for most people, right? And why we're seeing the Great Resignation and the realignment and all the things that we're seeing. So I think some of it's that,
In the article you talk about, there needs to be a difference between the kind of tools and the way you work in the office versus at home. Talk about sort of like, give us two pieces of advice there, things to look out for. And I want everyone to read the article. So go to ravepubs.com. So I don't want to give away all of your secrets there, but tell us too.
Yeah, well, I think the major premise is this, is that we have these two paradigms. Like we have the pre-pandemic paradigm of what it was like to work full-time in the office. And now we have 2-year history of most of us working remote, or most companies working remote, other than people that have to work in a warehouse or drive a truck. Obviously, that's not something you can do remotely. But for knowledge workers, we have a 2-year window. So for me, it's like companies really need to look at those two paradigms and say, what is missing? What advantage did we have in the paradigm before that we don't have now? And now how do we create a new space that actually bridges the gap between these two, right? Like what are we not being able to accomplish fully remote that we were able to accomplish in person? And that's the space we need to build, right? So yes.
Agreed. That kind of like leads me to the last question, because you also mentioned in the article looking at physical space the same way as IT technology like refreshes. Like what do you mean there?
What I mean is, the function of a room may be something today and something else tomorrow. Right? Like you guys were talking about XR studios earlier. I know businesses that are taking whole places where there used to be cubes of people who are no longer coming in every day and turning that into a virtual studio so that they can have better communications to employees that are remote.
Which is exactly what I was talking about. Like this is not just for the Mandalorian anymore. Like this is for like CEOs to like sit and have like be able to change the background of a meeting without having to, use a really complicated, green screen and like other setup. Like
or even immerse themselves in their own presentation. Like I can't wait to be able to present sometime with an XR background where I can take my slides and really kind of build immersive environments rather than just PowerPoint slides. So I think as a presenter, if you're, CEO level presenter, this ups the game quite a bit and makes you more engaging naturally with your peers and also with your audience.
Yeah, why shouldn't your company all hands meeting look like the iPhone launch if it's able to be that way, right? Like
that's true.
That's part of it. And I think the other thing though that we have to remember is creating something ultimately flexible or looking at ways to refresh things based on new outcomes is one thing, but we don't also want to reduce that space to something bland and ridiculous, right? Like I say a hotel is kind of like the ultimate example of reduction to the ridiculous, where you use a ballroom for eating food, you use a ballroom for education, you use a ballroom for a dance party and a wedding, when really that space is not optimized for any of those things. It's just boiled down to a rectangle with lights and plugins. And we have to resist the temptation to do that. But be okay with investing money, knowing it's a set period of time. This is a 3-year investment in this outcome in this space. And in 3 years, we may invest a different amount of dollars in a different outcome in the same space.
Oh, that's true. Like companies that are not in our industry definitely have like they just don't see technology the same way. I don't feel like they're like, well,
I think it's our job. I think it's our job to inspire. I think that's really it. We have to do a better job inspiring. And I think, it's unfortunate that not all the brands have good case studies, because I think that's a big part of the inspiration. We spend a lot of time as an agency helping brands build case studies because they don't have case studies of their own gear. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Mark Coxon, who's been a blog squatter for a long time with us here at rAVe, and we love his work. And check out that article at ravepubs.com. It's all about saving the office park. So thanks, Mark. You have a great day.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we have a message from our other sponsor, Shure. So take a look at this.
Things have changed. Conversations that used to happen around a table now take place on leading video conferencing platforms. What hasn't changed is the need for clarity in those conversations. Alongside key strategic partners, Shure is bringing the next generation of audio solutions to the workplace. Experience crystal clear audio solutions from Shure.
So Gary, you really
Awesome.
wanted to talk about this Max Hub product next.
Yeah, they have it at InfoComm. They introduced, and I put the video from that I shot at InfoComm on the product in the article. So if you go to ravepubs.com, it's up there now, or if you click on the link that you see there, it's a 4K 180-degree panoramic camera with auto tracking. So as you move around the room, it'll track you. And Max Hub Max Hub has gotten into the UCC space in a big way. They're no longer just a LED company. Speaking of UC space, another product that's also a camera product is from rAVe. So what rAVe's done is they've taken their current camera and built a version of it that you can take and mount it on a wall, and it becomes the same camera can become a whiteboard camera. And they have a kit. Basically, they call it the Conference Content Kit, but it should have been called a whiteboard kit. But in any case, it allows you to have a whiteboard camera that can shoot a whiteboard or a chalkboard or any kind of board and convert that stuff digitally. I mean, obviously we've had other brands have this. Logi has one of these, and rAVe is, as a big PTZ camera company, they've entered
Hudley
that.
has one too.
Hudley has one, the Canvas, the Hudley Canvas, and then so this is another one out there. And so I want you to the article, the darn cable, the wrong darn cable.
The wrong darn cable. This is so funny.
So I got when I posted this on LinkedIn, I got some great response, including someone that says, drawer full of cables. How about my whole garage is full of old gear? We've got a whole storage container here at rAVe full of old stuff we don't know what to do with.
Yeah. What is the joke where it's like a Twitter joke where you're like, they're a 10, as in rating someone out of 10, but, and it's always something wrong with them. In AV, I feel like it's they're a 10, but they don't have a drawer full of unused, multiple cables.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my young person joke of the day. If you don't know what that is, get on Twitter or something. I don't know what to tell you.
I'll have to get on Twitter. So we have we published a white paper written about the Sony Edge product, which I love that product.
But people don't understand it. It was the
so
problem.
We decided to take it upon ourselves to publish a white paper about it so that people would understand what that product's used for, how it's used, what the applications are, because there are 4 or 5 different applications for that product. You can go to our website now and download that white paper or read it online.
All you have to do is
just register and we'll email it to you. And it's worth getting. I think you'll really like it. We put a lot of work into it, a lot of time into it, and I think that you'll really enjoy the content.
Agreed. Well, yeah, I think that's the show.
It is. I guess so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it was good talking to you, Gary. I think this was a fun show today. I'd missed peppering in a little bit of current events in there.
Yeah. And
that
I'm sitting in the dark now, so it's time to leave.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Time for lunch. Thank you, everyone,
thanks,
for joining
everyone.
us.
Thanks, Madeline, behind the scenes, and thanks for watching rAVe TV every Wednesday at noon. Weekly on ravepubs.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and youtube.com/ravepubs.
Sounds good.
It's the weekly show about Pro AV with the hottest news in the AV industry. It's rAVe TV. Give it up for Steph and Gary. Steph and Gary.